we just moved into this place. We had boxes everywhere, and I like to play with my cars and, you know, enjoy my time alone out in the garage. And I was really, really frustrated because it's just clutter and, you know, it's just a mess. So guys came over, they assessed the situation. We spent about 15 minutes together, and we went through all the clutter that I had out there, all the things that really are my prized possessions, the things that I need in the garage, you know, to work on the car and have some fun, that kind of thing. We made a priority list as to the things I needed to retain. They went away and they put together a configuration, a really professional, efficient layout for the garage. Made some suggestions that I would never have thought of in terms of moving some of the cabinetry that I had, moving it around, moving my tire rack. I've got my track tires up at the top, snow tires for the other car, and that sort of thing, and another tire rack. They relocated all of that, and then when we signed off on that, a couple of weeks later, your guys came in, and where they started was emptying the entire garage. I mean, I didn't have to lift a finger. They took everything, moved it out to the driveway, boxes, lawnmower, everything, bikes, you name it. And then they started the sanding process. I mean, I'd go in and check on them every couple of hours, and it was amazing where the garage floor had all these cracks in it, and they put the special sealant in the cracks, smooth it over, and then I came out an hour or so later and they had sanded it, and you could barely see where the cracks were. And the garage floor was just like glass. And then they did the walls. Sanded all the walls, all the taping was sanded, remudded everything, then painted the ceiling, actually sanded the ceiling, all the taping in the ceiling too, and all the nail pops, all gone, perfect ceiling, down the walls, and the paint they used was a really high gloss paint, because I had mentioned to the guys I like to wash the car in the garage. They said, yeah, no problem, we'll put a high gloss finish on it. I mean, you can't take a fire hose to the drywall because, you know, it'll eventually break down, but, you know, washing the car, it splashes the odd time, that's okay. So then we had to decide on the color. And so they'd given me a kind of a heads up, and I had gone to the paint store and kind of figured out some colors. And when they got there the first morning, we talked about the colors, and they actually, you know, made a couple of suggestions to me, which caused me to change my mind. And what they actually did was help me figure out how I really should have a color that matches the trim around the garage and the trim around the house, but also blends from the garage coming outside into the inside of the garage, then into the house. So it's like a seamless transition. I mean, we used an interior decorator in the house, and she came over, actually saw the garage last week, and she was quite impressed and is thinking of getting it done at her place and then showing it to her clients. So the garage painted, matched the outside, matched the inside. But here's the ace. The ace is the floor. I mean, what they did with that floor, I mean, I said they sanded it, but they put this industrial coating on it that when the coating is still wet, they walk around with boots with big spikes on them so they're not sticking to the wet paint, and they sprinkle these particles, these flakes that are multicolored all over the garage floor, really, really thick. But the flakes that actually touch the paint have a chemical reaction, and they bond to the paint. They become a part of the paint. And so the floor, actually, when it's dry, becomes absolutely indestructible. Then I have a hose bib, a pipe, you know, a faucet that comes out of the drywall. It had been leaking, and it had destroyed part of the drywall underneath it. And so I pointed it out to the guys, and they said, yeah, no problem. They patched it, smoothed it, sanded it. Then they taped around it, and they about a couple of feet around it. They painted it on the wall with the special floor paint. Then they threw the flakes at it, and now I've got the floor comes up the floor over all of the concrete. You know, the concrete border you have around your garage, and you know how it chips and it flakes and it turns into cement dust? All gone, because the paint and the floor covering, the finish, comes right up over the curbs and right up to the drywall. Seamless. So then they actually took that and they brought it right up around the hose bib, around the top. So now I've got my big reel with my hose for washing the car, and it's permanently connected to the tap, and if there's any drips coming off of the nozzle from the hose, you know, it doesn't destroy the drywall. It keeps it really, really, really pure. I love going out into the garage, coming out of the house, you know, putting the garbage out or running out to the garage to get something. Don't have to put shoes on anymore. Before, you know, if you didn't have shoes on, you'd track leaves and dust and stones and all kinds of crap into the hardwood, and my wife's yelling at me. Not anymore. In fact, it's so clean out there. Now, my wife didn't say this to me, but I have a sense that she actually looked at the garage and started to feel guilty about the house, because from my point of view, I think the garage is actually cleaner than the house, quite frankly. She's big on feng shui, so she re-feng shuied the whole house, decluttered, cleaned everything out, and now it's like a paradise when I go into the garage. It's amazing. I love the garage so much that when I bring the car in, I actually, believe this or not, I actually park the car on an angle, and it looks like a showroom. I mean, I could go on and on and on.